Sean, good to hear you back. This fake news thing is like me saying I'm a hot stud for the ladies because I pulled a 9 out of 10 back in 2005. I hear you, Paul. And, you know, why are we here? Why is the platform here? Why do we have your support? Why is it vital we keep going? Because without us, no one's going to highlight to the extent we do the absolute rubbish that we're living with. And this is, you might not think it's a big story, but I do. And I'll tell you why I do, because it's not a mistake. And I'm really interested to see how much part Ipsos played in the gross misreporting of their data. And we will chase this story down. It's what we do. And I know, look, I'm sorry we don't have Ben, or we haven't sent Ben over to cover the election in the United States. Or that Michael's not there, or Leah doing breathless reporting and vox-popping ignorant Americans with IQs of 5 on the streets of, I don't know, Philadelphia or something. But honestly, what value would we add to what is already saturated coverage of the American election? None whatsoever. Let's wait. Let's see what happens. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the impact it has here and the madness it seems to be causing. We at the platform are concentrating on issues that mainstream media don't want you to look at. And one of those is freedom of speech. We do a lot of work and we cover stories, a lot of stories that end up or are already on the radar of an organisation called the Free Speech Union, the champions of free speech in New Zealand. They sponsor one of our shows, Free Speech Fridays. And they and we have been looking for some time at the case of Oliver Jull. Oliver, a young man who thought he was in the finals of the speech competition at New Plymouth Boys High School, and then found out he wasn't, that he had been kind of cancelled because his speech. Well, why? The school suddenly said he never made the finals. But there have been developments in this story, and the Free Speech Union got involved. To find out where it's at and what's happening, we're joined by, well, the leader, the boss, the head honcho of the Free Speech Union, Jonathan Ayling. Jonathan, how are you, mate?
I'm very well. How are you, Sean?
Good. Now, look, good on you for taking up the cudgels on behalf of Oliver. And his speech on the decline of Western civilization, which made the finals of the New Plymouth Boys High School competition, and suddenly he wasn't allowed to take part in those finals. Can you give us, and I know you guys looked into this, can you give us what you now believe to be the facts around his axing from that competition?
So we've been working on this case since about the end of July. So it's been some time now that we've been trying to get in front of the principal and the board, figure out what the key facts are here, and make sure that it was all above board. Unfortunately, it certainly isn't. And the fact that Oliver Jull didn't get to participate in a speech competition isn't in and of itself necessarily a problem. No one has a right to that platform. But after he was invited into those finals, to be told, look, you've got a speech here, we think you're going to upset people, would you mind making a few amendments? He said, look, I'd rather not. He said, well, at that point, you're not in the finals anymore. That is an issue.
So we have established that it was the content of his speech that he most definitely was in the finals, and he was asked to alter what he was saying.
Undoubtedly. It is entirely clear, and I would suggest has been entirely clear from the outset, that Oliver Jull was de facto in the finals. And then there became the sticky point when they started to review, and some higher-ups became aware of what his speech contained. And last year, they ran a similar speech competition. The winner of that speech competition spoke on co-governance, as is absolutely their right. What the purpose of a speech competition like this should be is to enable articulate, intelligent young people to formulate opinions and perspectives on issues that are relevant to our society, that are of interest to their audience, or that they think their audience should be aware of. and are able to articulate a particular perspective on that. The fact that, in this case, a deputy headmaster, or the fact that teachers or the fact that fellow students might disagree with those perspectives should have very little, if no, bearing whatsoever on the fact that they participate in the speech.
So, let's be upfront here. Oliver, and it's not a practice that I say I like, having been subject to it in my professional career a couple of times. Oliver recorded some of the interactions he had with the deputy principal or the deputy headmaster?
That's correct. He recorded 2 conversations, and our correspondence with the board of the chair of the board, she notes that's a very significant thing to do, to go into a meeting with a deputy headmaster and without their knowledge record.
It's not illegal. As long as one party knows.
I entirely agree. I think it is quite a significant decision. It's not one that we would broadly advocate, but it was one that in this case appears to have been entirely correct, entirely justified by the fact that Oliver clearly foresaw that he was going to be gaslit and he was going to face deflection. And without these recordings, he would come to us and say, look, I was in the speech competition, then I was told I wasn't because of the content, and I'd say, yeah, maybe, but maybe are you making some of this up? You know, how much of this is just...
Okay, now this is the important thing, Jonathan. So the school... First of all, were the school happy to engage with you because they've got nothing, nada, zip to us? They were prepared to engage with you?
The school, we've exchanged some correspondence, which I think is perhaps the floor level of response. They've not given us anything substantive, and they've time after time continued to refuse to meet with us, and have done little more than the bare minimum.
So would it be fair to typify their response to you as being, Oliver's got it wrong, he was never in the final, it had nothing to do with the content of his speech or the fact that he might upset one? Was that their opening position to you?
That's an entirely accurate reflection of their opening position to us. But, Sean, I want to build on that and say also, not only is that the way they've characterised the situation to us as advocates for free speech and an external third party, that is the way it has been characterised to teachers in the school. I understand that a meeting was held at the school. I don't know if it was for all the teachers or just teachers that were related to Oliver Jull. And they characterised Oliver as quite a vulnerable young man who was clearly have too much pressure on him with regards to this, and that they needed to have cautious sympathy and gentle hands with him and that kind of thing. And I think it is gaslighting is the only word I can really think of. I was talking to my team about this case the other day because while it's a case of a year 11 speech competition at a boys' high school, I actually think these really human instances of where our society is choosing to say, no, we can't upset, we can't rock the boat, we can't express provocative opinions. This is how we really get a temperature take of the room. And I said to my staff, this is gaslighting and abuse. And I said, well, is that too strong language? And they said, no, it's not. And we've got two former teachers that are full-time.
Yeah, no, look, I just want to go back and keep on it. So the excuse again, he was never in the final. It had nothing to do with the content. But because he had recorded the conversation with the deputy principal, was it?
That's correct.
He could prove that actually that was exactly what happened.
That's exactly right, yes. And also with another teacher who was I believe the head of a department, and she said, look, this decision is in the hands of higher-ups now. And look, I can imagine that at a big school like New Plymouth Boys High School...
can you name those teachers for us, Jonathan?
I did have that to hand, but I'm not so concerned about. I'm not trying to deflect. I'm trying to remember. I don't have that right now.
All right. Well, we'll publish them at some stage.
We have put that. There's a single deputy headmaster, and we have put that up on.
All right. So he has not only has there been an attempt to marginalise him, and let's be honest, they were trying to say he was nuts. That's what gaslighting is, trying to say you're not really there with it, and there's something wrong with you. They lied to you. They lied to other staff. They didn't put him in the speech competition, and it was only because he had the presence of mind to gather some evidence as he was going through this process that their their gaslighting has been exposed. As a result of that, have they altered their position at all? Have they apologised to Oliver?